For those of you who wish to purchase the first two complete books of my biography, please check out the description where you will find the links to my books published on Amazon, and you can write any questions or comments below this video.
Yet, amidst the trials of daily life, I was granted a glimpse into experiences that transcended the ordinary, experiences that bore the weight of the paranormal. One such account belonged to my mother, whose compassionate spirit often led her to care for an elderly neighbor, an ailing woman confined to her bed by an irreversible illness. I still remember the night when I was roused from slumber by my mother's voice. Gentle, yet urgent. "Mother Toniko, I just felt someone rearranging my pillow. There's a pull to see the lady I care for. I will come back soon." With that, she illuminated the room and hurried off, leaving the warm glow of the light behind. When she returned, a profound sorrow shrouded her normally vibrant demeanor. She told me in quiet tones that the lady had just passed away in her arms. As the Christmas season approached, our household was brightened by small gifts from my father's stepsister, who resided in the United States. Each year I eagerly anticipated my presents: ballpoint pens, pencils, notepads, and of course, Wrigley chewing gum, which I eagerly shared with friends and classmates alike. My parents received window curtains, which my mother promptly hung over the windows, adorning our home with a touch of festivity. My mother was my unwavering companion, my closest confidant, and I knew no babysitter but her. Whenever she ventured out for errands and my father was away at work, she would always take me along. Those excursions filled my heart with delight, for they offered me the chance to travel by bus and train, unveiling new towns and cities with every journey. Yet, unbeknownst to me at the time, each of these outings had a deeper purpose. My mother was steadfast in her quest to secure passports for our family, to facilitate our emigration to the United States, to the land where my father's stepsister resided. Such aspirations were nearly insurmountable under the regime of the socialist and communist governance of Czechoslovakia. One harrowing day, our next-door neighbor, a fervent adherent of the Communist Party, took it upon himself to file a complaint at the City Hall in Česká Velenice. He claimed that my parents were engaging in contact with capitalist countries and that they were subjecting me to psychologically unhealthy conditions, primarily through what he described as the brainwashing effects of religion. In response to this accusation, a state official resplendent in the uniform of the state security forces, essentially a police officer under the prevailing socialist regime, was dispatched to our home. His mission was clear: to conduct an interrogation of our family. The implications of his findings loomed large, for, according to the grim edicts of the state, I could be torn from my family and placed into a government-run institution, while my parents would likely face the gravest consequences, including imprisonment. Strangely enough, the state security officer who came to our home began to show an unexpected sympathy for our plight. In a surprising turn of events, he ultimately issued a passport to my family, but only on the condition that my parents would renounce their Czechoslovak citizenship, a stipulation that would, by extension, include me. Only years later would I fully grasp the dual motivation behind the officer's apparent benevolence. On one hand, he was serving the state by effectively ridding it of our family, and on the other, he sought to secure his own future favors, asking us to remember him with gifts once we reached the United States. It seemed that in some twisted manner, corruption could be rationalized. When I announced to my teachers and classmates that I would be leaving for America, their reactions were steeped in disbelief. I showed them the official permit to emigrate, and their astonishment transformed into heartfelt support as they urged me to stay in touch through letters. It was early summer of 1967 when my parents and I found ourselves aboard a train bound for Paris en route from Prague. As we crossed the border into West Germany, an overwhelming sense of exhilaration swept over us. Liberation washed over us, a feeling of profound relief in a world where we could express ourselves freely, devoid of the ever-watchful eyes of the secret police, who lurked in every public space, ever eager to eavesdrop on conversations that dared to criticize the government. Upon our arrival in Paris, we had to change trains for Cherbourg, a port city, from which we would board the ocean liner Queen Elizabeth II, destined for New York City. While waiting for the connecting train, a guide accompanied us to a nearby restaurant where I had my first taste of Coca-Cola. To my surprise, I found it lacking. Perhaps I had yet to acquire the taste for it. As the sun began to set, we boarded the train to Cherbourg. The warm evening air wafted through the open window, filled with a distinctly refreshing breeze that heralded the approaching Atlantic Ocean. Soon, we would arrive at the port and step aboard a grand ship. Dismounting the train, we traversed the port terminal, and before us unfolded a breathtaking sight, the majestic ship. To board, we crossed a narrow bridge suspended 4 stories above the undulating waves below, a daunting challenge in the dim light of evening. Upon entering, we were guided to our cabin, situated near the lower levels of the vessel. The round window was sealed tight, for we were situated below sea level. A cascade of strange new experiences lay ahead. The following day, breakfast in one of the ship's restaurants opened my eyes to culinary delights unlike any I had encountered before. It was here that I first sampled tea with milk, prepared in the British style, along with authentic French fries. A few months prior to this journey, my parents had gifted me an English textbook for beginners. Now, aboard a British ship, I felt compelled to put my newfound knowledge to the test. The results were frustrating at best. More often than not, my pronunciation eluded understanding. And conversely, I struggled to comprehend the responses of others. In the evenings, we ventured to one of the 3 cinemas on board, where, for the first time, we watched the James Bond film You Only Live Twice. On the second day of our voyage, the relentless sway of the ship brought upon us a familiar affliction, seasickness. It manifested in a relentless cycle of nausea and discomfort that tormented us for nearly 3 days, a stark reminder that even adventure comes at a price. On the 6th day of our voyage, we drew close to the New York harbor, a palpable excitement rippling through the ship as passengers thronged the decks in eager anticipation of their first glimpse of the Statue of Liberty. The iconic figure stood majestically against the skyline, a symbol of freedom and new beginnings that filled us with awe. Once we disembarked, a travel agent assigned to our group led us to a bustling restaurant in the heart of New York City. As we walked through the streets, we were entranced by the towering skyscrapers that seemed to scrape the clouds, the vibrant hum of continuous traffic, and the lively pulse of a city that never slept. Every sight, every sound was a revelation, a far cry from the quiet familiarity of home. From this remarkable city, we boarded a train bound for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where my father's stepsister and her family awaited our arrival with open arms. The promise of reunion and the unknown adventures ahead swirled in my mind, blending together into a fabric of hope and anticipation. Upon our arrival in Pittsburgh, a wave of relief washed over us, as we once again heard our native language spoken. We embraced my father's stepsister and her family, their warm welcomes wrapping around us like a comforting blanket. From there, we piled into their car for the short journey to a small town called Benwood in West Virginia. The first few days were spent in the cozy confines of my step-aunt's house, where the familiarity of family provided solace amid the disorienting excitement of our new life. Afterward, we transitioned to an apartment located at the rear of the building, depicted in the photograph below, marking the beginning of our journey in this unfamiliar land. The apartment was bare and devoid of furnishings, prompting us to seek out some essential second-hand pieces to make it livable. We acquired 2 beds, a stove, a modest kitchen table, and a couple of chairs. With its 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a bathroom, this accommodation sufficed, especially considering our financial exhaustion at that time. Now, my parents faced the pressing task of searching for employment while I prepared to begin my schooling. The greatest challenge our family encountered was the language barrier, compounded by the unfamiliar foods that surrounded us. Personally, I found American bread unpalatable. It resembled a spongy substance, lacking the rich flavor of grain found in the breads of Europe. Despite the daunting task of communicating in English, my father managed to secure a position as a night janitor at a clothing manufacturing plant in the nearby city of Wheeling. He earned a meager wage of $1.50 per hour, yet it was sufficient for our survival. Unfortunately, my mother had little luck in her own job search. As for me, I began attending a local Catholic school placed in the 6th grade, the same level I had occupied in Czechoslovakia. The school, overseen by nuns, left me astonished with the simplicity of its curriculum. Where I had once navigated a more complex array of subjects, my new class schedule offered only a handful: English, science, art, math, social science, religion, music, and physical education. Though I struggled with the English language during lessons, I found the topics mundanely elementary, having studied more advanced material back home. Nevertheless, the teachers were exceptionally supportive, encouraging me to seek their assistance whenever I encountered difficulties. They even dedicated extra time to help me after school. One afternoon, I found myself in an embarrassing predicament after overhearing a term that baffled me, one I could not locate in any dictionary. Mustering my courage, I approached my teacher after class and inquired, "Sister Elizabeth, what does fuck mean?" She turned to me, her expression grave, and responded, "It's a very, very bad word. Never use it. Where did you hear such a thing?" Caught off guard by her serious tone and reluctant to implicate my classmates, I replied, "I heard it on the street. Despite my relentless determination to master English, I barely scraped by in the 5th grade. On top of this academic struggle, I began to feel an overwhelming sense of homesickness. I longed for my friends in Czechoslovakia, the cherished foods of my homeland, and the historic places and majestic mountains I had known. My only solace lay in the presence of my parents, especially my beloved mother."
For those of you who wish to purchase the first 2 complete books of my biography, please check out the description where you will find the links to my books published on Amazon, and you can write any questions or comments below this video.